masters of speed. This is Formula One.
Right then, we are back with another setup video. It's Jeddah. It's the Corniche Street Circuit. I'm driving this Porsche. Should we go and get into it? So, you know the drill by now. 5 laps around the old Corniche Circuit. Let's go. You can really get a good launch with these F2 cars, but that's about it really. Nah. You're going to hear me banging on a lot about understeer. Unfortunately, it's going to be one of those, I think it's going to be the actual way these cars go forward. Unfortunately, they are extremely understeery, and I've tried my best, really tried my best to get rid of the understeer. But how long can you spend on one car, one circuit sort of thing when there's only so many hours in a day? But yeah, I believe that the setup that I put out, which will obviously come at the end of the video, works well. It works really well, in fact. I'm happy with it. Hope you guys are too. Let me know what you think. As always, would love to hear from you. I really do. But no drama so far. I much prefer driving around Jeddah than I did at Bahrain. One thing I will say, and one thing I have learned very quickly, is that if you spend a lot of time driving F1 cars, I know that these are not as powerful as the F1 cars, but they are a completely different animal. And obviously that should go without saying, I know, but the way they handle the characteristics are absolutely, completely night and day. Not breaking through there, sector 1. Just got to try and modulate the throttle as best as you can. Obviously if you brake going through there, all you were doing is losing so much time. Probably brake a little bit too hard for the hairpin. I let this ride out into 5th gear. And onto the straight. The car doesn't feel too bad at all. I mean, the understeer is still very much there, still very much a big problem, but it's a lot more manageable around Jeddah when you think about it, considering it's a street circuit, than it was at Bahrain. Much better to sort out, to get a grip off. Don't be afraid either to go down and use a lot lower gears. Cross the line at 43.9. I'm happy with that. Obviously you still got to have your wits about you because it is Jeddah, it is a street circuit, and those walls are very inviting, and with the amount of understeer these cars suffer with, it doesn't take long. One momentary lapse of concentration and you're in a wall, lost the front wing, lost the front tyre, and nobody wants to do that, right? I will say one thing for these cars, even though the understeer is extremely bad, they do have a lot of grip. Tyre wear is high though. You see we're halfway through the third lap and I'm already at 11% tyres, but then we are using the soft compound and it is obviously daytime in the desert, whereas F1 cars drive in the night, and it is only 5 laps as well. The game does put a massive tyre wear compensator on the lower laps race you do. So for an example, if I was to do a 25% right now, I'd have better tyre wear simply because it takes the amount of laps that you've done and then obviously multiplies it. I'm not gonna lie, when I recorded the Bahrain video I was extremely negative about these cars, simply because Bahrain frustrates me, I think, more than anything, and I think Bahrain was more of a skill issue than I first realised, because I just spent hour after hour just getting frustrated. But don't get me wrong, the understeer, the washout from the front tyres is a big problem, and you'll hear me also revert back to 2018, 2019 versions, 2020 versions of the game for F2 cars, because yeah, even last year's game, when doing the setups for the cars, it wasn't this difficult. You know, you could really nail the understeer, but I don't know whether it's something to do with the sports update, because the F1 cars don't feel the same either. So, like I said, I don't know whether it's something to do with the F1 sports update or what, but the understeer is extremely bad in these cars.
Okay, you just started the final lap of the race. Final lap.
Obviously the setup is at the end of this video, like always. I really hope it helps. Would absolutely love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. I like Jeddah as a circuit anyway, but I like it a lot more than Bahrain. But yeah, man, creating this setup was much more enjoyable than the Bahrain one, that's for sure. On to Australia next. Absolutely looking forward to that one. But yeah, hope this setup helps, I really do. I can't stress enough. Remember to do all that good stuff, like hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Massive shout out to those who already support me. Setup's coming next. Hope you guys have a good one. Take care, and yeah, catch you in the next one.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for ART today. Davide, what do you think made the difference here?
The difference was in the strategy. Credit to the driver for sure, but races like this really drive home how much of a team sport this is. They did a lot of work on the pit wall to really make the most of each stint and to make the best use of these tires. But that said, all of that would have been for nothing without a talented hand on the wheel.
ART, the French team who have been racing since the 90s in various forms of motorsport, are once again back on the winner's podium today. after a brilliant display of driving skill. And so, driver of the day then, Davide Valsecchi, who do you think you'd go for?
Difficult call, but I'd like to say Theo Pourchaire. He's just so gifted at getting the most out of the tires, and he showed that today.
That's the end of today's race. Thank you for joining us, and I'm sure you'll agree it was a great race and sets us up nicely for the next instalment in a few weeks' time. Take care. From Davide and I, it's goodbye.
So, Jeddah then. Let's see what happens. This circuit is completely different to how Bahrain was. So in yesterday's video you saw me struggle with a horrendous understeer. The understeer is real. The understeer is a real problem. But I've gone completely the opposite way to the Bahrain setup, which is nuts. And trust me, a lot of effort went into this. Anyway, the wings. Gone with 36 on the front and 31 on the rear. The car feels nice, stable, planted. However, the understeer is still very much there. I've tried everything to eradicate it, but you just have to remember these are not F1 cars. And if you are used to driving F1 cars, it's going to take you a while to get into the way the F2 cars handle. It's probably down to the fact that they are a lot slower than the F1 cars. However, I genuinely believe that these are based off the 2019 handling model, because the understeer is a real big problem. So yeah, 36 on the front, 31 on the rear. On the transmission then, I've gone with what I used yesterday at Bahrain. 60% on diff, 40% off. I mean, some people might like it 80-20, or you could even go 40-60. However, if you go 40-60, there is a very, very high chance that when you lock the rears, because obviously the balance of the car and everything is backward, you could lose the rear end. So I choose 60-40. On the suspension geometry then, and like I said yesterday at Bahrain, where I used to say right, left in F1 videos, F1 setup videos, it's completely different in the F2 cars, because you have to try and eradicate as much understeer as you possibly can. So you will see I will be playing a lot with the suspension geometry just to try and get the car as less understeery as possible, even if understeery is a word. But yeah, onto the front camber, gone minus 2.6. Onto the rear camber, I've gone 1. I've left that alone completely, although you could take it to 110 or minus 110, minus 120. But for me, I left it at minus 1. But again, this is your setup. You guys, yeah, the more you play around with this setup and make it better for you, the better it will suit. You could probably go a little bit lower on the wings as well. You could probably take it down to a 35-29, but for this, I've gone with 36-31. So on the front toe, going with 4. On the rear toe, I've gone with 0.13. So yeah, seems to help, but at this point, it's been a long time, a long day. Front suspension then, on the 41 on the front, 31 on the rear, which is a massive difference to how it was yesterday at the Bahrain setup. And I think this is going to be the way it goes forward, circuit to circuit. I don't think it's going to be like a one sort of setup fits all. It's going to be a lot of trial, a lot of error, and a lot of you guys playing around with the setups to try and get them to work for you. So yeah, onto the front anti-roll bar then. It's going with a really stiff, firm roll bar of 20. You could go to 21 if you want. I wouldn't recommend going any lower than 18. But yeah, I found 20-10 works well for me. You could probably take this down to about 8, but again, play around with it. It's your setup. This would work fine for me, and if I had a F2 race around Jeddah, this is the setup that I would be using. Onto the rear ride out then, gone with 33-37. Yeah, it seems to work well. It clears the curves because obviously you have to remember Sector 1 is all about being precise through the twisty turny bits, and yeah, you're going to need quite a high ride height. I mean, you could take that up to 34 if you wanted. I wouldn't recommend going any lower than 33, simply because the curb on the left hand side, just before the end of Sector 1, if you do run out too wide, you will bottom out on that curb and it'll send you straight into a wall. 37, you could take it to 36, but I found 37 works well for me. Again, this is your setup. I'll keep on. The more you change a car's setup, the more it will benefit your driving style, as we all drive differently. Onto the brakes. Again, this only applies to ABS off users. I found 58% stopped me from locking the rears, but you do you. You change it to suit your style. ABS on users, this is not applicable. Just skip over this part. Onto the tyres then. Got the 22.8 on the front right. I've gone with 22.6 on the front left. The left tyre, the left front, seems to get a lot of punishment, so that's why I've gone with that, and I've gone with 20.4 on the rear. So, to summarise then, the F2 cars are extremely understeery, and for many hours I've tried to eradicate as much understeer as I possibly can, and really struggling. I hope the setup helps. I really do. Would love to hear from you in the comments below. They're difficult this year, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know whether this was the intention of the cars to be extremely understeery, but I remember what the cars were like in 2018 when they first came out. You couldn't apply throttle without them spinning. In 2019 they came out and they was extremely understeery. 2020 they were absolutely perfect, and then 21, and then 22, and then now in 23, yeah, the understeer is bad. But it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it other than trying to mitigate as much understeer out of the car as possible. But do all that good stuff. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Massive shout out to all those who support me already, and all those who will in the future. Take care, guys. Peace.